Hello everyone and welcome to Buyer's Brokerage Part 2. This is a discussion that we're having regarding buyers, brokers, and what buyers need to be aware of when they're working out in the world today. Last time we talked about common pitfalls and what happens to folks that may not use a buyer's broker, or things they need to consider, and that's back in Part 1. You can take a peek at that if you'd like to. My name again is Rob Cassam. I'm a broker and owner of Carolina Realty Advisors. You can get more information about me, my company, my services at my website at www.charlottencproperty.com. And today we're going to talk about buyer's agency and working with buyers, which is a formal disclosure that buyer's agents or any agent really needs to make to you in North Carolina before you engage in the services of a real estate agent. So with that being said, let's describe buyer's agency here. If the real estate firm and its agents that are representing you, they've got some duties that they owe you. The first one is to promote your best interests, to be loyal to you, to follow your lawful instructions, and to provide you with all material facts that could influence your decisions. They also need to use reasonable skill, care, and diligence, and account for any monies that they handle for you. Once you've agreed, either orally or in writing, that the firm and its agents is going to be working with you as a buyer's agent, they may not at that point disclose any confidential information about you to sellers or agents in their company without your permission, so long as they represent you. And this is an important point here on the bottom, but until they make this agreement with you as the buyer, as your buyer's agent, you really need to avoid telling them anything that you wouldn't want a potential seller on a property that you're considering to know about. So be very careful about that if you choose not to work with a buyer's agent. Unwritten agreements in real estate, I don't recommend them, but it's possible to make sure that you in the real estate firm have a clear understanding of what your relationship is going to be and what you're going to do for them. It behooves us to have a written agreement. Some firms may be willing to represent you and assist you for a time as their buyer's agent without a written agreement, but if you decide to make an offer to purchase on a particular property, then the agent must obtain a written agency agreement of some sort with you. If you do not sign it, then the agent can no longer represent you and assist you rather, and is no longer required to keep information about you and your particular situation confidential. Obviously, if you later purchase the property and go through an agent with another firm, the agent who showed you the property may still seek compensation from the other firm. So you need to be careful about that. Services and compensation, I know that's a big one that people are concerned about. Whether you have a written or unwritten agreement with a buyer's agent, they can perform a number of services for you, which include but are not limited to helping you find a suitable property, arranging financing, learning more about the property, or otherwise promote your best interests. Clearly, if you have a written agency agreement, they can also prepare and help you submit a written offer to the seller, amongst many other things that we'll talk about more in Part 3 of this series. A buyer's agent can be compensated in a number of ways. For example, you can pay the agent out of your pocket, or the agent can seek compensation from the seller or his listing agent. They can also require you to pay if the listing agent refuses. But whatever the case is, you need to make sure that your compensation arrangement is clear and spelled out so that you are aware of what's going to happen at closing. The good news about agency and compensation in our particular market is that in a large percentage of cases, maybe 99% of the time, the listing agent ends up splitting his commission with the buyer's agent, and at the end of the day, there's no net cost to the buyer. Now, clearly, we have some other services that we offer that require different types of arrangements, but they're very rare. And like I said before, in almost 99% of the cases, you're compensated, your buyer's broker is compensated through a commission split, so it doesn't cost you any money at the end of the day. And I would advise anyone to use a buyer's agent, whether it's us or otherwise, because of that fact. And so the last thing is a discussion real quickly about dual agency. And this is a situation where an agent can represent both the seller and the buyer at the same time, and we call this dual agency. It's most likely to happen if you become interested in a property listed with your buyer's agent or the firm that they're working with. If this occurs and you've not discussed dual agency, then there's got to be a disclosure in a written buyer dual agency agreement that takes place at that particular time. If you choose to go into a dual agent situation, there's supposed to be an equal treatment and a fair treatment of both the seller and the buyer. However, we do not do dual agency as a rule in our firm. There are certain circumstances where it can make sense, but as a rule, we don't like doing it, because if we're out there and we're representing the buyer's interests and we're assertively and aggressively working on his behalf, then it becomes very, very difficult, if not possible, to try to represent both people in the same transaction. It's the reason a lot of people use our firm, because we're not that big. We don't have 600 agents, and we're not out there trying to push our listings in the name of dual agency and possibly exposing our clients to undue risks when they're out there buying a particular piece of property or looking at a property. If you choose dual agency, there's supposed to be a situation where the loyalties are divided between the parties, and you need to have a clear understanding of what your relationship is with the dual agent and what the agent's going to be doing for you in the transaction. Now, if the real estate agent or firm that you contact doesn't offer buyer's agency and you don't want them to act as your buyer's agent, you can still work with the firm. However, they'll be working as the seller's agent or sub-agent. This person can pretty much still help you find property if that's the way they choose to do their business, but they still need to disclose material facts as you always would as a real estate professional. But you've got to remember that they do represent the seller and not you. So, they may try to obtain information on behalf of the seller and essentially work their interests over yours. So until you're sure that an agent is not a seller's agent, you really should avoid saying anything that you wouldn't want the seller's agent to know. We said that already. Seller's agents, by the way, are compensated by the seller. So that's why we say you'd pretty much be foolish not to find a buyer's agent to work with that you like and trust, because the service is really built into the transaction, since the listing agent's already paying for the buyer's agent fee out of his commission and 99% of the time, and that's the reason we recommend doing it that way. As always, you need to decide what kind of broker you want to work with, how serious they are about their profession, what their experience is, what their service package is, and whether or not you really trust them. So with that being said, my contact information is here on this slide. You can pause this, copy it down, go to my website, give me a ring if you have any other questions. And that really concludes today's discussion on buyer's agency, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the last and final part on part 3.